My mother lied to me about my real dad. My life has been crazy ever since I turned 18. My mother and I never had a strong bond. She acted and treated me like she was never proud of me or happy for me. I lived my whole life thinking I was unique or different because I had a different last name from my family. My sister and I used to joke about how I was adopted because I had a different last name when we were younger. That was until I started college. In my education class, we had made a family tree about our family and teach it like we would teach it to little kids. I slowly realised no one in my family had the same last name as me. I was so scared to ask my mum because she shut me down every time I brought it up. So I asked my teacher if there is a way I could find it out on my own. She told me if it's hidden I would have a hard time, but if I had any questions I could ask her. During class, while everyone was doing the family tree, I was doing my research. I started on Facebook and looked up all pictures that had to do with me. Then I scanned pictures and bam, there it was, a picture of me with the description, "My beautiful granddaughter." I looked confused because it was someone with a different last name from me and someone I didn't know who it was. I then took the name and went to the white list, and there it was, 2 guys with my last name. I started to tear up because I was so confused on what was going on. Questions ran in my head. Am I really adopted? Who is my real parent? What if I was taken because my biological family is drug heads? All those questions ran in my head. I started to freak out. Is this my life real? I decided to email the lady and see if she could tell me for herself. Seconds passed, then minutes, then hours. I was freaking out, watching my phone like a hawk, wanting an answer. Ding. I froze, scared for the real answer, and then I look at my phone to see a text back from the lady. In the message, she talks about how she's been waiting for the day that I would message her and wait. She missed me and how happy she is that I text her. I froze. Why would she be happy and that she was my grandma? The text continued. She said my dad's name and how my mum made the decision to move away without my dad knowing and told him not to follow because if he dares to try and come for me, she would make sure he would never see or hear from me. I froze in place after reading the message. Did my mum stop me from being with my biological dad? Why didn't he fight for me? Why did she make my decision for me? Then I text back, asking if she got proof. Next thing I hear is millions on ding ding ding. I look at my phone and there it was, pictures of me and her and me and my dad. I ran to my car and burst into tears. Why me? Why now? I drove home, crying, trying to think about how I was going to bring this up with my mum. I walked into the house with my mum and my stepdad sitting on the couch, and I burst out with it. Why didn't you tell me he wasn't my biological dad? When were you going to tell me the truth? Why did you hide the biggest thing in my life from me? I dropped to my knees crying, and from the words she spoke, changed her bond with me completely. I don't regret the decision I made for me, she said like it didn't mean anything to her. I don't know what changed in me, but I stood up and looked at her and spoke. For you crazy? You lied to me when I'd done nothing but believe every word you've told me. Then she walked downstairs to get away from me like she wasn't discussing with me. My stepdad looks at me and says, "She thought she made the right decision." Me being so mad, I screamed, "For who? Herself? She hid the biggest thing from me, someone that made me." I finally left the house, crying because I was so broken. I felt like it should have been my decision if I wanted him to be in my life and not in her life. I texted my grandma and asked her if she could provide me with her son's phone number. I wanted to call him. And she did. I later called him and he told me how happy he was to hear from me. I told him I'm sorry if I don't call him Dad because it was so new to me. He told me tons of stories about our adventures and how we used to go on trips and how he never gave up hoping of me calling him. I was his only daughter and that he wanted to get me back in his life before having any more kids. Slowly we grew our bond and now we have a great conversation. I even stayed with him and my stepmom for holidays.